but how much of the working class are able to then afford to live without their jobs? So after you've made the money, what have you done with it?
And I want to find out from you, what was that transition like? You mentioned that you studied these things, but you also did not know how to use them.
I mean, family was called on me. I was called out. I was sat down and I was asked, are you putting your mother out? Are your siblings not going to have a home? It's not about today. Today is probably sorted out. Your bread for today is sorted. Is next month's? Is next year's? And they say the best negotiation is when both parties leave feeling screwed.
Today's guest is someone whose voice in the world of wellness and finance has inspired thousands to take their power back, especially when it comes to their money. You may know her from her powerful online presence, but beyond the content is a woman who's deeply committed to helping people transform their financial habits, unpack generational beliefs and money, and build a life of intention and freedom. She's a financial wellness advocate, entrepreneur, and content creator whose journey is as real as it is revolutionary. I'm so excited to sit down with the incredible Yolanda Jawe. Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. Today, the woman that I have is about to get your financial wellness in order, okay? If you have been struggling to not only make the money, but put the money towards things that are important to you, the lady that we have today is the woman for the job. So I need you to get out your notepad, your notebook, and get ready to take some notes, because you know how we do it on the Resonate podcast. Mrs. Yolanda Jawe, welcome to the Resonate podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am not only excited to speak to you, but very reflective to speak to you. I've known you over the years, and there's been quite an amazing transition that I feel like fully aligns to where your heart is right now, that I think just makes this moment beautiful.
Okay.
So I'm excited to talk and chat to you. Before we get into like the meat and the wellness, we do a fire round of questions. So it's almost like a tradition here at the Resonate podcast, where we want to know, what has Yols been up to? What's been going on?
Give it to me. Yeah.
So we have 3 questions that will kind of get us to dig deep into the direction of the conversation. Ready?
I'm ready. I'm always ready, girl.
So what's the one money memory from your childhood that still shapes how you approach finances today?
Being top salesman at Akajo. So I was in retail at like 17.
Okay.
And I made a whopping 7,000 Rand. But it's the most money I'd ever made at that age.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was the achievement of like being young and understanding that I needed the money. So I was on the floor all the time.
Wow.
And I remember one day I made, like small now,
Yes.
24,000 in one day. And at 3 p.m. they sent me home. They were like, actually, at this point,
You're
the
good.
other salespeople need to make money too. But it was with tips as well. Like international people would come and they'd buy. And I think that's one of the biggest, for me, it was just like, money is just a figure. It's just a construct in our minds, And if I'd known that at the time in commission only, I could make 7,000 and more, maybe I would have made more, but I wasn't counting. To me, it was like every day I had a target.
Yeah.
And if I reached it, great.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best money memories. And I had fun. I actually had fun speaking to people every day, making conversation, and I just had fun making money.
Yeah. I can't wait to get into that. Okay. My second question is, if you could define wealth in one sentence, not in rands, but in values, what would it be?
Not in rands, but in values. I think it's always freedom of choice for me. I like to wake up and decide what to do without the idea of having to calculate how much I can do or how much I can afford to do. So wake up and say, where are we going? What's next? Whether in the season or whether today. So I think that for me is like the epitome of wealth to me, the ability to just do. And that includes health. That comes with the ability to be able to do, because you can have the money and not be able to move your body.
Sure.
So just the freedom of choice.
I love that. Okay, third and last question. What's something most people misunderstand about financial wellness, and what do you wish more of us knew?
It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Where?
Yeah, a lot of people make a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't keep a lot of money. Yeah.
Keeping money. There was a time where there was a bit of an uproar on Twitter about this conversation about keeping money. Because then some people came in and they said, well, you guys don't understand. Can barely make enough. South Africa there's poverty and all of these things. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to keep money?
I think a lot of us live with the idea of making money. From school, we taught how to make money. And it's almost, I want to say almost natural to be able to make money. And once you have the ability to, how much of our country, even the world, comprises of the working class majority, right? But how much of the working class are able to then afford to live without their jobs. So after you've made the money, what have you done with it? I think we're really great at making the money. We're really bad at stewarding. So going in with the plan. If you have to manage a store, what's important is stock taking, making. All of those things are mini ways of how you should look at your money. Even your household. So we've brought in X and we take out X. So I think that's just, it's so strange that school does not treat or at least help us think like a business, right? But we work for businesses. We make money for businesses. The businesses keep the money.
You've got sales targets.
Exactly. And they operate with that mindset, but they don't teach us how to operate in our own individual spheres with that mindset. And that's purely just because any capitalistic system needs capital.
Of course.
Human capital. So somebody has to work. Somebody has to keep working. Right. And if they taught us, how would the world work if we all could afford to live the lives we actually want to? Purely because whatever 10 Rand I make, 5 I know goes to my expenses. The other 5 is broken up into, the 2 is growing in stocks and shares. The other 2 is going into savings, emergency accounts. And the other 1 is fund money. But we never see it like that. 10 Rand must go to everything. It must service everything. So unfortunately, I do think school does play a huge role. Even university. I studied this and I still could not keep what I wanted to keep until I had to teach myself, okay, if I'm a business and I treat myself as a business, how much can I retain and how much can I grow?
I love the fact that, and I think I said earlier that this conversation is very full circle, because one of the first YouTube videos you made was around how you bought property, and how you used your degree to buy and pay off the first property that you bought. And it's like years later, it's such a full circle moment that this has now come back into your heart, and this is something that you're talking a lot about. You've been a creator for years, have had the whole brands, do this, let's do that, let's do this. And over the years, you've also pioneered conversations around working with brands, what not to do, what to do, etc. And I know you've helped a lot of people, including myself, structure their rate cards when we were getting into the industry, and like just a bit over 10K and the brands are coming, you're like, yours, how much do we charge? So it almost seems like you've always had a bit of an understanding of how money works and just the scales of the economy. And I want to find out from you, what was that transition like? You mentioned that you studied these things, but you also did not know how to use them, and you had to teach yourself. Was there ever a moment where something happened and you were just like, okay, I can't carry on like this anymore?
Tons of moments,
you still fell back to it again.
Yeah, sobering moments. I think that's why I say it's the human in us. It's very natural to fall into the trap of, I don't need a budget. Money comes in, money goes out. It's okay, and I'm okay. And lifestyle inflation creeps in so quickly. But for me, 2 key moments. So when I bought the house, I bought it for my mom, right? And we were just moving from house to house, and I really did not like the situation where she was renting for so long. And I was like, you know what? I want my family to have a home. My brother and my sister, I'm firstborn, firstborn things, I was
gonna say.
So deputy parenting here. And the first time I realized that I cannot live making a living. I need to actually live, because I was just making a living. I was working at the bank and I could afford to pay off my property, was when I moved out. So that was a defining moment. I said to my mom, I actually have to move out of the house, move out of Cape Town, and just change my environment. I don't think this is what life is about. And the first question was, how are you going to pay off the bond? But I think it was very defining, because suddenly I understood where money had to stand between me and money. Money was like my God at some point because bond does not negotiate. Come end of the month, you need to pay the bond. But then I was like, it's standing between my dreams. I want to experience Joburg, the Joburg hub, the career. Like every time I came to Joburg, people were just so motivated. I didn't know how much they made at the time. And I moved with or without money. I mean, family was called on me. I was called out. I was sat down and I was asked, are you putting your mother out? Are your siblings not going to have a home? You know? So it was quite a defining moment for me, but a very strong stance that I took. And I applaud that little 24-year-old girl. Because still, she booked her flight 26th of December, literally day after Christmas. And I'm like, I'm going to Joburg. I enrolled at IMM and I followed my dreams with or without money. And I think that was the first time I could separate who I was and what I wanted. And I understood that money is just the means. And I give money purpose. The next month I was headhunted, and one could say luck, and someone else could say, that's just fate, or somehow you knew. I had no idea how life could turn out. But suddenly I was living in Rosebank and working in Rosebank, a town I never knew, and I was working in an environment that was the healthiest I'd ever been in my work life, and I could pick up the camera and shoot.
Sure.
And for the first time I was living and making money.
Yeah.
So those were two defining moments. So come year 2, when I was pregnant, after my promotion and things were really going well, I was traveling Africa. I was presenting in Nigeria to investors. I just felt like I was living. And at the peak of this, again, I was like, is this what I want to do forever? So one young Tuesday, I looked at a spreadsheet that had 60 tenant leases. And I was like, this is not my life. I'm 5 months pregnant and I want my son to be inspired by the life that I want to live. Yeah. And I love the fact that I think I was earning at the time just over $500,000 a year. And to me, that was a lot of money.
That's, to this day, that's still a lot of money.
Well, it's relative, right? 40-odd thousand a month, like 43 or 44,000 rand a month. And it's, to some people, it depends how you look at it, right? But in South Africa, I was living comfortably in the south of Joburg. Yeah. I could afford my car, I could afford my bond, I could afford my living expenses and save and invest. But it wasn't living for y'alls again. So I remember giving my husband a call because I'm very impulsive like that. Ooh. I decided on that day I'm writing my resignation letter. Called him and I said, babe, I think I'm going to resign today. I called my mom as well. She was just like, knowing you, stubborn, and she knows. Like, she's always said I'm stubborn. You know what? It comes with the package of yours. Yeah. Fine. And my husband said, what are you going to do every single day? Do you have a strategy? Because you're no longer going to have YouTube as a hobby. YouTube is suddenly, and it's 2018. No one's gone full-time in South Africa. I only know like a handful of people, Sibu being one of them, and he was a student. I don't think he ever worked in corporate, as far as I know. So I just knew that I needed to get in the front seat of my life, and I've said this over and over on my channel. And I think at some point you need to preach to yourself and walk this preaching that you've been talking about. Yeah. And I was like, I need to drive my life. And he said, okay, picture this. What will every day look like? Strategize and figure out this being a business now, how you actually want it to work out, because suddenly you're no longer doing this as a hobby.
That's true.
And you need to figure that out within the next month of serving your notice. Yeah. And I did. I did.
Take us into figuring this out. And I say, you were one of those people in the early stages that had to kind of figure out the internet. And I mean, I do remember 2018 very well. There wasn't a lot of creators. YouTube, I think in South Africa was still very, and we were, even brands were also still trying to figure out, like, how do they also collaborate with you guys? There was a bit of a buzz, a bit of, I'm scared to start. Oh, there are people that have now started, etc. When you got to a point, because there are a lot of people who want to do that. They want to step, or they want to plan rather, into stepping into either being a creator or advancing their business onto creating YouTube. And what did your day-to-day look like?
So, a little rewind.
Yeah.
School, business.
Okay.
Cash flow. The only thing that stands between you and your next move is understanding whether or not your cash flow can carry you over the next few months. And I think a lot of us, again, we don't think like a business, but individually, that's what stood between me and resigning. Because I was going to have a baby in less than 6 months. And I was 5 5 months pregnant. So yeah, there was like 4 months
4
left.
months left, yeah.
And the only thing that's realistic, I'm going to miss my maternity leave benefits. And it's a cash flow thing.
Yeah.
For
And you
me,
might
it's a
not be able
numbers.
to work fully because you've got a baby.
So these are the realities that I'm facing.
Tricky.
But I was like a business, if you were starting a business and you had capital, how would you structure it? So what are my cash flow projections? And if I can see this cash flow can only last me 3 months, what do I do as a business? I would pitch. And that's what I did. So within that month, the only strategy for me was, how am I going to use the next month to speak to brands who have worked with me and educate them on how they could place their brand, like brand placement, on YouTube. My Instagram was so tiny at the time. So I was just like, yeah, here and there you can use Instagram. There was no TikTok.
Yes.
So I just pitched. Like a business would. If you're looking for business, you go out there. And I think the 3 that I pitched first in the first week said yes. In fact, some of them, one of them, I think it was My Natural Hair at the time. They're still very new. They were like, give us 2, give us 3. No, it was a Cape Town brand. It was called just My Natural.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very small brand at the time. I think they're big now. They were like, give us 2 more videos. I was like, I was pitching for 2. And they're like, that means I'm underpricing. So the next proposal I sent, I increased the price. And proposal writing became a norm because in my job, I was writing memorandums about properties, commercial properties. And I was like, in the hair space, I can just translate this for me. Yes. And again, this will work for me in my situation. What skill sets do I actually have? And then I started looking at events. One day, my friend and my husband and I were laughing because a brand asked if I charge for events. And I said, I've never charged for an event, you know.
God, now I do.
Yeah. And then I'm like, how much am I going to charge for a 2-hour appearance? Appearance fee, what is that?
Yeah.
I thumbsucked 14,000 Rand. They said yes. So there
is that why you charged me for an appearance fee years ago?
Yes. Because this is how you learn. You build the plane as you fly it. And suddenly I added that, I built that into my rate card and it became a standard. So what wasn't a norm, what was an exception, became a standard. But that's how business works. You start by servicing a car, just the wheels or just the rims. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this guy has got a dent. Let me see how I can fix this. You Google this. Suddenly that becomes part of your pricing, right? And if we could see ourselves as walking billboards for our own businesses, we would price like that. For me, the cash flow mattered. Because I always, and some people say this in investment, think in decades, not days. And it's so important to think in decades, not days, because it's not about today. Today is probably sorted out. Your bread for today is sorted. Is next month's? Is next year's. So that's literally how I did it. I literally just had a 6-month view and then a 12-month view of my business. I was like, what is going to service y'all's channel? And then y'all's, the family, Yolanda Jawe. And that's literally how I did it. And I broke it down to what I'm earning every month. What are my expenses? I know that already.
Yeah.
What can cover it? And I want to live. My biggest key take was I want to afford holidays. I want to be able to do things that I just want to. If I don't want to work today, can I afford to?
Yeah.
How much am I taking of my paid leave for myself, to myself? Yeah. So that's really how it started. Cash flow. And once the numbers made sense, which was after my resignation letter.
Oh my gosh.
I just ran the business. And every time an opportunity came, even forums, you could be paid for being part of a voice because we knew here, if they ask you for a focus group, your opinion on a specific product, you can get paid. And there's lots of ways to monetize your skill set. I am beyond a senior investment analyst at a commercial property company. I am Yolanda Jawa, who's a subject matter expert in hair.
Yes.
So how many ways can I flip this product? Or the service and the skill set. And then I started consulting businesses as well. An R&D team came to me. I signed an NDA. Can't say the brand, but that was one of the highlights within that year of just learning that I can charge for a whole team to sit around and say, what are naturals looking for when it comes to ingredients? And I was like, oh my gosh, these people are taking notes as I'm speaking. And I'm charging by the hour. So that's really... Everything else falls into place when you understand your business and you build systems around that cash flow. For me, I'm motivated by that cash flow.
You know what I like about what you're saying is you need to have the number in mind. And I think that's something a lot of entrepreneurs don't always think of. It's like, how much money is it going to take for you to live comfortably? Or what's the Myron Golden says, what's the price that makes you smile? Like, how much money do you, because if you don't have that number, it feels like a juggle all the time. And by the end of the month, you didn't juggle well, you're frustrated, you try to, and then before you even have time to be depressed and anxious, you're back to the new month and now you need to try to juggle again.
I don't like to juggle.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And you are literally spent in terms of energy. Where's the creativity going to come from?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in our industry, you do need a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
You know, that is our backbone.
Yeah.
People come here to be entertained, to be educated.
Yeah.
And they need something to keep them coming back. So, yeah, for me, it was just, I still want to live. I don't want my arms to be heavy because I'm juggling so many things, you know.
Yeah.
And I have this baby that I was looking forward to. And I was like, I want him to just be. Today is career day and he's dressed like a pro gamer.
Oh, it's
And
so cute.
you know, a friend of mine was like, that makes sense.
Yes.
I said, no, I don't know about that being a career. She said to me, who knew that what you're doing now could be a career?
Yeah.
But your son knows. And I'm like, that answers the prayer that I had when I was 5 months pregnant. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. Like the fact that he can go confidently to school with a little console and say, I want to be a pro gamer, it's answering that generational question that I had. Like, do I want future generations to know there's no cap, there's no sky? Just be, just live. That's it. Outside of the cash flow, you need the cash flow to work, but you can be. And a lot of times our limitations are bound by not having that number, by not seeing that number.
Yeah. Like, you actually don't know how much you need every month to save, invest, cover your expenses and live comfortably. And that's such a powerful tool. You also mentioned pitching, and my mind stuck to that because pitching is it's a sales thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are intimidated by pitching. Especially, I mean, then you could have been intimidated by the fact that nobody knows what this is. Like, would they even read this proposal? Right? And then it's like, now that everybody knows what it is, people are intimidated by the fact that it might not be a good idea, or they might not even read my pitch, or I'm charging too high, or I'm charging too low. And like, you will always find an excuse why not to do it. And the question I have for you in that regard is, like when you were pitching at the time, right? Or maybe, let's say, pitching at the time and what you see, which is the trend and the change that has happened now. What do you think makes a good pitch?
Ooh. Girl, because mine was not good at all. That's why I'm like, ooh, my first pitch was a 1-pager.
Wow.
All I thought of was what I'd put as a business, because I built out memorandums for buildings, right? So, for instance, the Rosebank Oxford building opposite McDonald's, where Coke is, we moved them from one of their offices, sold their offices, right? We had to basically create a pitch about an old building in Parktown.
Sure. So,
it's the numbers. For me, again, besides that, what about the building makes it great? Yeah. What about y'all's makes her... Why y'all's? So what is it that I bring? 2-liner about me, which they already know. I only pitch to those who I think are part of my network. If I need an introduction, I prefer warmer introductions, not colder. Yeah. And it's helped now because it's easier now. Yeah. But at the time, I was like, I don't know about like cold. And I didn't have Canva. There was no Canva.
So it was PowerPoint.
Word. Oh. No, my first one looked horrible.
No pictures, nothing.
Tabulated stats. So all I thought of is, on a 1-pager, how can I explain to somebody that this would make sense? So I want, and then obviously listed deliverables. So what makes a great pitch? Your introduction. So a little blurb about your bio, who you are in this context, not who you are as a mom. How's that relevant to the hair?
Yeah.
You know, and then, of course, I wanted to give them a bit of about me in terms of my channel. How has it grown? What are the stats? What are the watch time? What are the key things? What can they expect in terms of average views? Yeah. My subscribers. And somebody even said to me, you know, you can even screenshot. And I started doing that on the word. I'd screenshot comments about hair, about how I've helped people throughout their journey, so that we add value. Because what the client wants is sales. They want to know if there's ever going to be a conversion. Yes. So anytime there was ever a comment about me converting somebody, whether on a discount aisle or a clicks aisle, I am putting that comment as part of that pitch, like examples of testimonials. I'd put a little testimonial section there saying somebody, hey, I've used my natural hair. Oh my goodness, it's transformed. Oh, I love their this and that, to show that I'm speaking to their target market. Because what would it benefit them if I'm talking to men?
True.
Who don't have hair, who are bald, you know? And then, of course, the stats, the demographics, they want to know that. And then an idea of how I can bring their product to life using my voice. Key messaging. My voice was very different on the internet. By very different, I mean, it's amongst 10 people, maybe, in the hair space in South Africa. So it's very few, right? But I focused on education and my journey. Those are the two things. Get into the front seat of your life. Let's go. And I share my experience authentically, honestly. If something doesn't work, I'm going to tell you. So that's exactly how I built it out. We're going to have an introduction. Let's take people on a journey. Hey, guys, this is who I'm going to be using for the next 3 months. That's natural. Right? That's the first episode. Second episode, okay, we've washed our hair. How did our hair actually do over the last 3 months? Are we actually having a tracker? I used to have t-shirts with numbers that show like a hair growth. So if we're on a hair growth challenge, we're taking them on with a brand.
Nice.
So again, it's about journeys. You're giving the client an idea. Let them see your vision and let them understand it in your language. So that they don't say, oh no, but this is our key message. How can I translate that? Because I can't speak Afrikaans to my audience. They don't understand Afrikaans, but I can understand you. So let me translate that in a manner that they'll understand, because that's the only way we're going to get a conversion. So that's what I do on a one pager. I just have all these, in my head was grids, these 4 or 5 grids with my introduction, my stats, and then the comments, and then the deliverables. And in this deliverables, I'd usually put 2 or 3 videos. And I always say, it's very easy for me to gain trust if somebody sees your product more than once. I reinforce trust in doing that, in saying, Michelle. My husband's going to know Michelle's name because I've mentioned Michelle's name more than once. One time, oh, who's that? You're talking about Michelle like I know her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if I want to garner this relationship, I say to client, this is only going to work if we do more than one video. Also, my cash flow.
Please.
My cash flow is not going to work with this once-off payment. I need more than that. So that also has to work for me. I think a lot of the times we think about the client first, but creator-led content has proven to do so much better in our sphere. Look at Pamela Mtanga, for instance, how she translated to her.
Absolutely.
You know, and a lot of us, including myself, have failed by just following the brief. Brand-led content often doesn't land the same way as, you know, how you would understand me speaking as my audience.
People can see that in like the first few seconds. People can see that. You've just given us a client acquisition strategy. Literally. Because I like when, you know, even how you structure it, it's like your introduction becomes important. Brief, right? But also the conversation around the intersection of the person, the company or the stakeholders' KPIs and your figure.
Yeah.
You know, like and it goes back to the thing, what's your number? Because then if you can tie your number to someone else's KPIs.
Married. That's a marriage right there.
So good.
We need to think more like that than on a one-sided approach. Because it's great to service the client and meet the brief to the T. And then you're left with the breadcrumbs from the table you built.
And you will hate executing that work.
You built that table. There are people who have literally put brands on the map. Whether or not they got their ROI. And you mentioned the client's KPIs. We need to also build our own. And a lot of the times now, I've learned over the years to say no based on this does not meet our KPIs. It doesn't meet our brand. Like where we are as a brand, whether from an alignment perspective or my audience will know this is not us.
Yeah.
You
just
know?
even the messaging.
And I've had to say the pain of saying no. Hey, but you got to do it because it does not meet our minimum criteria.
And it's always like the ones that don't align are always willing to pay more.
Yes. Oh,
have you seen
that? That's the real pain.
Yeah.
Because it's above your price.
Yes.
But are you willing to sell? I always say, my husband says, selling your soul. And I'm like, oh, are you willing to sell
That's
the brand?
too deep.
He's like, are you willing to sell your soul? And at times I have. You know, when I was younger, it was easier because I had less to lose.
Yeah.
But I think now I've had to really narrow down what it is I'm building and where I'm going.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you have to answer that question time and time again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that also influences you not being shy to price or shy to mention a price when somebody's like, how much do you charge for this? Or especially when you were starting off, because I know, and a lot of people who started during like the 2018 time when some of us were like just, like dipping our toes in there, would come to you for advice, and you would be like, no, charge them. They're like, yo, just wait.
Just wait.
Okay, 1.5. And you're like, no, what was that part of the strategy of helping you charge better? Or if not, what was it?
My friend calls it having the confidence of a regular white man.
Oh, so true.
The price is the price. You don't negotiate at Pick a Pay. If the bread is 24 rand and you want a cheaper one, go for a cheaper one. No one is forcing you to stick to this one. There are cheaper breads. There's the solid one, which is the cheapest, and you can get that, And also in corporate, I would negotiate. Yeah. So I feel as though in the same space, I picture myself when I am sending this email to somebody. And of course, I've gotten really, really bad responses before. I think the worst was, you are way out of our league.
Oh,
and that was personal. I could feel that was personal. That was a personal attack on me from her. Like, it was a brand that was basically offering me a model's fee.
Okay.
For a BILLBOARD countrywide campaign.
Oh.
And it was a massive campaign. Eventually they went with a celebrity, a huge celebrity. And I'm pretty sure she didn't take the 30K. They offered me 30K for a full-on country of 12-month, by the way. Yeah, see, it gets worse.
Exclusivity.
Yes, exclusive. And also POS, so in all the stores that they are in, all Clixes, all Discams, you would be seeing me there.
30,000 rand.
Yeah, and I said, no, this is my fee. And also I'm happy to create a package rate, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, to answer your question, I always think of pricing as not just your value, but the work. Man, like just to get here, we had to put on our faces.
Yes.
Right? And then our time.
So much.
So again, if you were in corporate and you were negotiating at an interview and you're at a pricing stage, they want you. You don't get to pricing stage if they don't want you.
Yes.
It's now a matter of the number. If we can't meet there and I'm open to negotiating. I always say that. But this is my price right now. What is yours? And they say the best negotiation is when both parties leave feeling screwed. So I need to lose a little bit. You also need to lose a little bit, but we need to get somewhere if we both want this to work. I know I can find value already with you because you're at the table. This is why we're here. Yeah. So that's always my point of reference. They won't approach you if they don't want you.
Yeah.
They're not literally closing their eyes and going, okay, Michelle.
Yeah.
They've actually gone through the rounds of shortlisting your name, pitching it to client, and client saying yes. And then it's a matter of pricing. Yeah. So I always see it as like that last round. And if we lose, we both lose. Yeah. You've lost on my voice and my audience, and on to the next.
Yeah.
Do
you think there are specific mental barriers that it's almost like a money story, or just how people feel and relate to money? When we started, you shared a story about you selling at the age of 17. I can imagine the confidence that gives you. Money is no longer like a thing. It's like, I can make money. Money. And I think there's something about being in certain positions in corporate where, because you're already dealing with millions, for you, if someone says 100,000, you're not shaken.
No.
It's just like, okay, next,
Yeah.
And it's safe to say that not everybody has that privilege or has been in settings where they've got access to certain conversations and certain money, and potentially have been around certain circles and people that talk big money, but from a non-essential perspective. Like people that are talking big money, not to pay rent on the bond or whatever, but they're talking big money to just like go on holiday and spend, and just those small little things. What do you think are the psychological barriers? Like, what are we going through to not have this white man's like
confidence. Regular, and let him be regular. Let him literally manage Akajo. Let him manage a poetry store. You know, I'm opening my phone now to read you my money mantras.
Okay,
it's about what we believe about money. So you're right. I grew up pretty poor, I'd say, as in I went to school on financial aid. We stayed in a shack for a long time. And then when we moved into a rental, and we just knew, there's restrictions. There are things I can't ask for that my friends can.
You can't redecorate and paint your room and
No.
put things in the sky and put pictures everywhere and
My-
own the space.
No, my first bed was in that house. So we slept on one bed as 4 people in a shack, you know? And I never wanted that to drive my motivation. And I'll tell you why. It's purely because when my mom, she said she walked until her shoe broke. She actually showed me the shoe when she was trying to look for a school. School she couldn't afford. And for me, I think that tells me the story about her mindset. It wasn't about what she could afford. She did not allow her circumstance to determine our future. And she used to drill that in my mind. Your circumstances don't determine your future. You get the job and then you figure out how you get there. Not that I can't get to the interview story.
That is so true.
So a lot of us start from there. We start off, but we tell ourselves stories. I can't do this first, you know. So I wanna read my money mantras to you. And it's very short, but I never utter the words "I'm broke." I can run out of funds at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, but it's never I'm broke, because broke is too definitive, and the full stop.
And it's got an emotion to it.
Yes, it's breaking. Quite literally, the verb is just too harsh. I am not broken in my being. I am fruitful in my thinking. You know, my boss, my clients, they determine my salary. God determines my overall income. So your income is limitless. I can earn X here by maybe getting a sponsor on this podcast, but this is not the only thing that can literally create income for me. My income streams are in abundance. I believe that when my money goes, my money grows. Every time I spend money, even if it's just a coffee, I'm like, Lord, Seed, we having a little coffee, me and you. I understand that I'm going to learn something from you that can help me monetize something one day, whatever that may be. Money is subject to me, not the other way around. And I have control over my money. We lose control very quickly. Month end, people lose control. I worked at the bank, and day 10, people are lending money. They worked at the bank. They taught people how to use money. But on the 10th of every month, and we earned on the 20th. So, okay, they had 20 days. But a lot of people, apparently on average, have 10 to 15 days with their actual salary, some less, in South Africa. That is scary because money controls them, right? Money doesn't leave my bank account without purpose. My money has my direction, not the other way around. Money cannot give me direction. It has no mouth to speak. What? So my income is bountiful because my hands are blessed and I am fruitful and I apply godly wisdom over my wealth. So that's really what I believe. But it's taken years to drill this in because when it's hard, and it's been hard, I've had to downscale my lifestyle. I've had to downgrade, but not my thinking. And I always thought about my mom, like her imagination went wild when she thought of schools. She searched, she said she searched on Google, and Google was still new at the time, top 10 schools in the Western Cape. And I thought that was wild because she was earning a volunteering salary at an MTN Science Center, which was like, 35 Rand a day, something like that. Something crazy. But she made sure that her kids go to school. My brother has his master's. My sister has got her honors. I say I brought the baby. I've got 1 degree, you know. I say I gave her the grandchild. Yeah. But we all were able to study, you know, at prestigious schools, universities. And my brother was the first, you know, black kid boy at his school, at my school. So it's always, for me, it's like he always says the fight was, I have no other choice but to be successful. That was his fight. It's like, I had no other choice. I saw my mom struggle. So I had no other choice but to fight instead of falling back into the mentality that tells you your situation determines your future. Yeah. And it doesn't. Your situation is always subject to change. So is my bank account. So why am I broke?
Come on.
Why am I broke?
Like, I am never broke.
No.
I love that so much because it's like, even if currently the funds are small, the mindset isn't. And I think what you're highlighting is that that's where it starts for a lot of people. It's the mindset. And then essentially, because now you're feeling broke, money starts controlling you.
Yeah.
How you charge is based on what's happening in your mind, not what's happening in how you want to. I was talking to somebody last week and I say to them, you need to start showing up, you need to start showing up like the future version of you.
Yeah.
Who is not complaining about money, who is not struggling because of this, but that future version of you who is fully showing up, who's successful, who's built this thing. Because it's Bulelani Bala said something so powerful at the Resonate Summit. He said, you must understand that when we say small businesses, the business is small and not the mindset.
Yes, I remember watching that. Goosebumps even now.
Yeah, like it was just
Yeah. Money mindset is everything. And unfortunately, if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, you need to fix that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of traumas we go into, especially as a black people, as a black nation. I almost want to say again the word natural, but we cannot fall back into our humanness
Yeah.
when we are trying to create supernatural things, when we are trying to break generational curses and change literally everything about where we are going as a generation. We can't keep falling back and making that an excuse. There's just, for me, it's just hard to keep thinking I can't.
Yeah.
Because I can't. If I believe that long enough, I won't be able to. You know, so we simplify certain things, but we don't others, which is funny because money for me is a simple concept.
Yeah.
Go in, go out.
Yeah.
That's all it does. Give me direction.
Please.
It's always ready to go.
Yeah.
One thing about money, it's ever ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always feel as though, especially like for our younger generation, I love how they think, by the way, how they don't hold jobs and how they value more life than work.
Hey.
I love it, but I do wonder if they are interested in their future self, like the better version of it, because they're worried about now. They're always just like, I'm living now, but okay.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, 20 years from now, there's going to be you.
Yeah.
What are you doing for her? 10 years from now, what are you doing for her?
I tell my little sister all the time that 5 years from now, we will know what you were doing this year.
The decisions we make today will
Yeah.
determine tomorrow's outcomes.
Yeah.
Always.
And if you ever get to a point where you are not proud and now you're running away from the people you went to high school with, and you must just know that there's something back there that you did not do. And I think that's such a powerful point because we as millennials have been called the microwave generation. But these ones,
No.
they're faster than the microwave.
They are, I don't know what it is, air
Gas
fryer
stove, like-
on steroids.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think the big messaging here is like, as you think of now, think about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I have been introduced. I went to a gala dinner, a prestigious gala dinner. I was like, oh my God. I was a +1 to my husband. But I was just there like, no. Thank God I'm here. I was like,
He's your +1.
Yeah, I was like, no, Lalela, I was writing notes. And I got introduced to this concept by one of the speakers that came there. And it just like, I've been thinking about it, and particularly why I also wanted to have this conversation, because coming into Youth Month, right? We celebrate Youth Month, and there's like a key focus to it. And I was introduced to the concept of legacy, right? And legacy, but not the way that I've always thought about it. I was introduced to it as the fact that legacy is not something you prepare. Legacy is who you are today. And I, when you spoke about your mom, I just thought to myself, that's such a powerful legacy that has marked, where she said her shoes broke walking to find a school for you. That is part of legacy. That mindset on its own is a legacy that has brought you and your siblings moving forward. And when you think about, and every time, as especially African people, when we think about legacy, money is the thing that comes. It's like, I want to leave investments and all of these amazing things. And we're just like, but I'm starting to learn that part of leaving those things is what you do with the money right now.
Yeah.
It's not that like, I'm going to leave a legacy when I'm 38 and I've made a couple of millions and I've gone to holidays, and then I'll start thinking legacy. It's like, it's every day.
Yeah.
And I want to find out from you, part of doing your everyday, I mean, we've spoken about mindset, we've spoken about people being able to save, and also, career. We've seen you, I will say, evolve into different aspects of your career. And I believe that have left a legacy over the years as well into building what yours and who yours is right now. What have you been, or what has been the key focus into every season you jump in? Because you just, and this is just my personal opinion, you have a gift of just being good at whatever you get into. Like, it was just like, I remember at some point, you were doing like healthy living and workouts, and I just thought, oh, that's so interesting. This is nice, and then the hair, and then the property, but like we're saying, it all just aligns to yours and today. What has been the key focus in every season? I asked this question because it's important that we reveal to a lot of people that it doesn't always have to be about the thing, the purpose, their main thing, like yours finance. It's like, it's like you have to, I mean, I have interviewed you on a television show about marriages and relationships. Freaking
2019.
2018.
I was pregnant.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Years ago. And that's like part of my journey. I have started an events company and branded myself as an events guru at some point and evolved into freaking, I don't even remember, but all of that just shows you the timeline.
Yeah.
And that timeline was so important, right? But there's always like a key thing that comes up in every single part of our timelines. And I'm curious to know what that is for you.
It's going to sound very philosophical or maybe Christianese.
Give it to us.
But it's journey and seasons. Like there's one thing for sure. Like yesterday will never be the same as today. Last year is not the same as today. In fact, even financially, no financial year is the same.
Yeah.
And I think for me, maybe the only thing I've been good at is sharing the season I'm in.
Love that.
Because I don't necessarily feel like I change in every season.
Yeah.
But I know for sure summer will end and winter will come.
Yeah.
So what is happening in the season?
Yeah.
So I just happen to take people on the journey, even on my finance journey, same thing. You know, so I always feel as though I embrace it and I immerse myself into it. And not a lot of us I go in scared, but I'm okay with failing, you know, in every season. I'm okay with succeeding in every season, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I go in knowing that. I guess that's what it is. It's like when I quit, a lot of people in that video where I said I quit my job, so many people shared their fears for me. And while I heard them, I did not receive any. Because in this season, I needed to quit and embrace what was coming, which was new beginnings. Literally new beginnings, but also new beginnings to me because I did not have a template. Like I'm telling you, I didn't have a Canva template for a proposal, but I knew the cash flow needed to make sense. And in that season, that's what I had to do. You know, the rate card, Kopano is the one who said, hey, let's put something together.
Yeah.
There was no Canva rate card. And you know, to think about it like that is insane to me.
Crazy.
But every journey has got speed bumps. It's got pit stops. But it also has highs and lows. And sometimes high highs, you know, like traveling into Africa for 3 months. And the only worry you have is where to next.
Yeah.
You know, and then some seasons are, we can't afford where we stay. It's downscale. Some are, I need to close the channel just to be me. And at every given season, one thing I'll tell you, I have a really bad habit of not being able to lie on the internet about my life. I can lie about anything else. Maybe I'm human. Maybe I'll lie about, I don't know, anything, right? But about my life right now, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
So that's why it was very important for me to go back and say, I'm not well right now. And I'm closing off the channel, you know. Or I'm really loving the finance side. I'm back into like, I brought my books back last year, you know, my university. That's true to me. I asked my mom, can we dig back? Like, let's go back to my old room and like look for my investment book, my finance book, my like that's me. That's me in my private space. And now I bring you in. Yeah. That's the season I'm in.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I love that because you're speaking on, and because I think, you know, what comes to mind is like every time we think about finding the thing, what you've just highlighted is that it has to do with how people perceive us and not the season we are in. So I must find the purpose because I want you to take me seriously enough to say that she's found it. But what you're basically saying is like, I will just bring you into whatever season that I am in because that is what is true to me at that time. And even with like reflecting on my journey and what I was sharing with you, I can identify with that. That's what was true to me. I had learned how to do events. I started enjoying it and I built a business out of it.
Exactly.
And I said, hey, I'm the events person and I started talking about events and I started doing this.
Yeah.
I took an interest in relationships, created a whole television show out of it. And it was like, I love that. And that I think for me brings so much perspective into not giving people the pressure to find the thing because sometimes we're not trying to find the thing for ourselves but for others. It's like I also need to have my thing.
And you don't. And I think you learn to live in contentment that way because you understand that seasons end. Yeah. They're not going to last. Unfortunately, autumn will end. Yeah. It's going to get colder at some point and then summer will come. So that's why when things are really bad, sometimes I share after the fact. That's why I'm saying I'm human, like my marriage. You know, I was like, yo, last year was rough. in it. I could not share at the time because I could not bring myself to what was happening.
Yeah.
But that's not my brand. And that's what I always remember. Like, y'all's is Yolanda Chawe, human first.
Yeah.
And why am I sharing this? The only reason I was sharing it is because I want to bring you into this portion of my life that was rough.
Yeah.
And again, it's the season.
Yeah.
And now it's come to a close. And I'm glad. But I'm not going to lie to you and create this fairy tale and have a marriage conference.
Yes.
Because it makes sense, financial sense. The cash flow makes, no, that's never going to be me.
Yeah, because people can always see if it's not genuine and it's not coming from truly what you're going through right now. And it's just like studied. And for me, that resonates.
Hey, and the same with you. I'll say
Yeah.
the same. We live in seasons, and I think my husband will always remind me, like, why did you start this channel? And I said, I wanted them to climb in that car with me. When I said we're getting into the front seat, we're both in there. So who am I when we're in the middle of Hillbrow and I'm scared and I say to you, don't worry, think about Santon. We're in Santon right now. We say, it's a lie.
Yeah.
So that's why it's easy for me to say no to certain brands and say, it's not authentic.
That's true.
This is Santon and right now I'm in Hillbrow. It's not going to work.
Sure. I think that vulnerability of owning your season is very important, and deciding when to bring it out there and when to, conceal it and not tell people. One of the seasons you do. Oh, before we get into that season, I was going to say that part of the seasons is like starting a business and then closing it and realizing that I love this.
Yeah.
But it's just not in the season for me right now. And realizing that there's actually no shame to it. Because I think, and especially people who have not started, they are so tied to the idea of, what if I start and then it doesn't work out? Or I start and I don't like it.
That's not your identity. I think a lot of times we attach our identity to things. And I think that's why I always go back to money mantras. I don't attach my value to money. I don't attach my identity to money. Imagine I thought I was someone because I have X amount in it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Tomorrow that could all go and be a zero. But Yolanda will rise again because Yolanda has been through seasons.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my understanding is the sun will rise and the sun will set.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. So when things close or they come to a close, it is their time. What's next?
Sure.
So I think we very tied to valuing ourselves and how we perceived too many times. So I'm really not scared of being embarrassed. I'm not scared of falling forward, or in fact that's what I think. When I fall, I don't even say fall anymore. I say fall forward because I'm further than what I was before I fell.
It's like you still fell, but over there.
Yes.
Not over there.
No.
I love that.
I'm okay with failing and failing fast.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I learned my lesson. Just like that pitch, I'll never regret sending that out because for me, it catapulted me into a world I knew existed, but I did not know how much.
Yeah.
If I did not make the mistakes that I made when I started as a YouTuber, if I was scared to start, I don't know how many people and I've heard so many stories of people saying, I quit because you quit. I started YouTube full-time because I saw you. I don't know how many, but on the other side of your fear is someone else's blessing. It's someone else's courage.
That is so true, yours, because I remember, like I even keep mentioning, like when you guys started around 2018 and some of us were like dipping our toes in. What kind of made us still move was like, no, they're moving and they are doing it. Therefore, it's possible. And I think that's very important. And one of the journeys or seasons that you took us through was when you bought your car cash. And as a Merc girl, listen, okay, I am very much well aware how much you paid immediately. Expedition just right now. How much you paid right now?
Yeah.
And drove out with that car. And I think first of all, just thank you for sharing that, because it's important that those things are highlighted. I think every time we talk about acquiring the things that we dream of, it's always either debt, which is another conversation for another day, or it's like there's always just it's like you can't just like do it cash and just like purchase it then. And as somebody who is like a creative, I always say to people, like, I don't have debt, zero, because I am a businesswoman and I'm also a creator. My life does not,
it cannot allow
accommodate, doesn't allow a contract with anybody and anything, because a payment could come in on the 10th or on the 15th.
Now you've defaulted.
Now, do you understand? And no, it can't. But that moment specifically, right? Was it I'm aware it was very intentional. But was there more like almost like a spiritual or like a psychological intention behind it? I believe it was more than just I made this payment, forward. I say this to potentially highlight also the fact that because we saw that it was possible without even like going online, some of us also then later went to the dealership and then swiped certain amounts for certain cars.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because God is good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Because God is good. But when I reflect on my journey, I think this was more than just...
You are spot on.
Yeah.
I think you have an inkling. Well, you already know sort of me. It was definitely a prayer point. So my previous Merc, I was paying it off from when I bought it, which was 2017 back in the day, and I paid it off within 3 years or something. And I kept on driving it. So it was spiritual because of two things. When I'm at events...
It had a lot of space, that car.
Which one? The older one or the...
one?
Yes. Yeah, but it was the Merc 180. It was the A class 180D. Yeah. So it's an old one. When they park next to me, it's a granny. a white granny. Okay. It's never even a white old man.
Okay.
So it's giving Honda Jazz, but a Merc version.
Got you. It's like your granny handed it over.
You know?
To you.
But my rich granny.
Yes.
You just call her wealthy.
Okay. That means we're doing something.
We were doing something, but it did not match y'all's. And I knew that. But in that season, I was content with it until I wasn't. Until I needed to be like, I need to go first when we leave events. Yeah. Because I talk about money and yet my car is not reflecting that. Now, then it started pinching me. Like, why is it bothering me?
So much.
Oh, the loss to leave because I don't want anyone to see me drive out. And I was bothered by that. I'm like, I'm not that person. I'm not materialistic in my thinking. And then I started having these conversations with my husband. Like, I'm not embarrassed about my car, but I've been wanting to leave her for a while. And I've been saying goodbye to her for a long time. I love her so much. And when I buy my new car, it's going to be cash and it's going to be the car I think I want. Yeah. And that's really what my prayer was, Lord, I want to get into the car and actually know that this is me. Yeah. I did not feel like me anymore. This is not me to be like ducking and diving. Yeah. Like, it's not my car. And it's not about the car. I'm not a cars person. So it was a spiritual thing, and I had saved up the previous year. I took my time. I looked at cars, and when I bought her, she was just, call it a symbol or a sign of me walking into my higher self. Because I was like, what is y'all's drive? And also I wanted to reflect where I am in my season. Yeah. I was in a season of pure grace. Like, I think that's the song that played, all my life you have been faithful. Yeah. And also a reflection of financially, I was okay. My car wasn't the other one was reflecting, is everything okay? Ma'am,
do you want to go back to corporates?
You know what I mean? And it's okay for that season, but it wasn't serving me, and I needed a car that reflected where I was, and I was doing okay, and I could afford to buy my car cash, and I could not answer why I'm not doing it. So when I was in Cape Town and I took my car for service, the older one, I made that decision there and there again. Called my husband. I said, I'm going to speak to a salesman now because I see the car I want.
Oh my gosh! But
I've always been a person who sows seeds and asks God to pour rain on it. So I'd already been doing this for 6 months. I think we've spoken about it the previous year. When he was away, he was working away, but I'd already had these conversations over and over with him. Yeah. So by the time we were in Cape Town, I'm like, I know it's odd. We're going back to Joburg, but I'm buying a car now. Yeah. And I did it. Yeah. And then they said, pick it up in 4 days. So I said 4 days. Oh my goodness, it's a long time. They're like, yeah, we'll be ready for you. We'll add the extras that you want, whatever you want. And then I went home and I said, guys, Friday, please, flowers, everything. I want to congratulate. I want everything that wasn't there with my first car because it was just a transaction. Yeah. This is a momentous occasion for me because I actually planned for this for so long and I prayed about it. And I knew then and then when I was servicing her, it's her last service as my baby. And we're introducing her to her sister who's in the same space. Of course. So yeah, that's how it happened. It was spiritual, but also I needed to, a lot of people came with criticism like, oh, you could have invested the money. Where was the money coming from? Boring. That's where the money came. Like, my thing is...
from the investments.
What I don't understand. What are we working for? Yeah. My husband used to say, how can your shoes be broken usebenza? Kanta usebenza? This is a symbol of my work. I'm like, all these years, she is that. See what the Lord of God has done. That's why I call the baby C. Literally see what the Lord has done. So yeah.
That is so, so, so beautiful. And I can resonate with that. Like, you're driving a car that you're just comfortable with. And you're just like, I can move around. But you get to a point where it's like, this car is not reflecting who I am. And now every time I go to these brand events, I'm either the first one to leave or the last one. But you're just like, or sometimes you're like, let me take an Uber.
Yes.
I just want to be safe.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
because,
that's painful.
And I can relate with that so much. And I want to share with you because this was like so good, right? You were speaking about sowing seed, you know, that every time you interact with money, it has to sow seed. And I want to take it like a level deeper into like the spiritual aspect. So how I got my car is I going through the same thing of just feeling like this. No, man, like,
Michelle.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm good when I'm driving alone. I get around, petrol's cheap, like I'm fine. There's like, but it's when I go to meet clients and I feel uncomfortable, you know, and I also just had to like, just, you know, rediscover, right? And then let me tell you what happened. I went to an event. And as I went to an event, I drove in, and as I drove in, you know, sometimes like depending on the parking, sometimes people are like standing outside before they go in. And as I got inside an event, somebody very close to me who was standing quite close to my car overheard a group of girls who saw me drive in say something along the lines of, oh my gosh, is that her? Oh my, you know, like, yeah. Listen, basically kind of being like skinnering and just like
so rude.
Saying, oh, she's got so many followers. Why is she driving this kind of car?
Man.
Like just going, right? And I kind of overheard it, but like not to the detail that the other person overheard. And they then were just like, oh my God, Michelle. And to be honest, it wasn't because I blatantly could not afford a new car. It was just like, I'm comfortable. Maybe I can put my money into other things, whatever. And that for me was like, okay. Clearly, when we talk about personal branding and maybe just how I show up, it is something I need to start thinking long and hard for. But I thought, and I was like, okay, let me be intentional about putting money into getting this car. And that year, I think this happens around November, December crossover service. I go to church, and the 31st, one of the things I noted down, I'm praying for is like, Lord, I need a new car. And I remember the Lord saying to me at that time, give all your money away. I said, excuse me, sorry, what?
Yeah, sacrifice.
I said, Lord, I need you to listen to me, and you listen to me carefully. Okay.
That's for my car.
You and I are in the process of saving for a car. You told me you were going to give me a car. So what is the problem, you know? And I was the obedient child, and I literally sent all my money away. Like literally, by the time it was 00, it was like 23:59. There was zeros in my account. And I'd say to God, I don't know what I'm going to do this month. You provide, you take care of it. So I gave that money away. Literally, I remember my heart just going,
it's real.
It's going to take me because now I know the car I want.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's not a car that I can buy in a month or two. I'm going to need a bit of money. Moving forward, it didn't take me about between 8 months. And by month 6, I still did not have the money.
Look at God.
Like but in 2 months, yours.
That's the Lord for you.
God shook tables. I was able to literally go and purchase my car and drive off without owing anybody.
Yes.
And I've never even shared this before, but I share that to say, I think there's the power you mentioned about sowing seed and seeing your money as, oh my God, this money is going away from me. What is the church going to do with this money? Oh, now I must do coffee with this person. You know, but it's like, if you just change, and I think for me, God had to start shaping the way I thought about money.
Yeah.
To say that it's not like, it flows through you.
It does.
And that for me was the spiritual message. It's like, if you are okay with just 10,000 flowing through you, I want you to be okay with a couple of hundreds flowing through you. I want you to be okay with so much money flowing through you. And that changed my money story.
There you go. And I think that's the thing, they say if you're holding sand, right? You hold it too tight, it's going to squeeze through.
Yeah.
You too open with it, it's going to also fall through.
Yeah.
But if you hold it just right with arms still open, your palms still open,
nice.
You'll be open to receive at all times. And one thing, my friends have actually said this over and over, is the reason why there's always money is because you're always giving. And I think there's so much power in, like, where my money goes, my money grows, but it means my money goes. Like, you're not held onto it. You're not so uptight because, like, I've seen people who are so uptight about money and so, like, I don't want to use the word stingy, but they don't have. And you don't have because you don't want to give. And I think there's so much power in also giving back to you. And for me, that was the car. I said, like, this is me giving to me, and I never give to me. I'll give whatever you need. I'll give. But when it came to that car, I was like, actually, it's time for me to feel like me in my car.
Yeah.
And I'm giving to me, but with open hands.
Yeah.
And it's okay if all of this leaves. It will grow.
Yeah. And just to enjoy it. I mean, I could really identify with, like, getting in your car. It's like, you know when you drive, sometimes you admire other people's cars.
Yes.
But you admire other people's cars, and when you're done, you're like,
And mine?
You're like, I'm good.
I'm good.
You're like,
no better feeling.
So it's like it just always becomes a reminder of God's goodness.
Yes.
And how God is able to turn around. But I love the concept you just brought, or just maybe reminded us of, is the concept around seed and seed sowing in whatever it looks like, in relationships, in your business, in other people, and in also how you look at money, which is the money mantras that you shared. Those were like,
no, thank you.
I loved them. Thank you so much.
No, you're most welcome.
Yours has been such an amazing conversation.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me and reminding me as well to continue sowing seed. Yeah, it never stops, hey? Every season.
It doesn't stop. It's almost like a call for more.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the one thing I've held on to. It's like every time the Lord prompts you to sow a seed, just know that, like, He's just opened the tap a little bit. And the moment you that obedience is like the first drop flowing out. The moment you answer to that, the tap becomes open.
Yeah, and the requirement is seed. It's not fruit.
Yes.
Like, I think for me, it's like, how are our minds so small? God is got this fruit mindset, which means He's got a tree mindset.
Yes.
You're complaining about a seed, the size of a seed.
Yeah.
Can you imagine saying no to a seed? You saying no to the whole tree.
Yes.
And
oh my gosh. Imagine.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And that's why I'm okay with God at times saying, this needs to go.
Yeah.
Because He's definitely got more and better for me.
Yeah.
It's okay for even the car that I love so much to go.
Yeah.
He's got better in store.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I love that. We love what you're doing with Yours Finance.
Thank you so much.
And we are learning so much. It's a big full circle moment for the things that you've started doing over the years and that you continue to do now. So please keep going.
Yeah, I hope it lands the way in which I give it, in a sense. It's not haphazard. It's intentional. Yeah. My prayer is that we all see money differently. Oh my gosh, that's a line from a bank.
Corporatized.
I'm corporatizing y'all's channel, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really hope that we see money differently. Sorry to extend this, but when you were saying about y'all's on finance, a lot of the things are just happening purely because of seed. Wow. But when I went to Dubai, my mind was opened. You know how you think this is your world?
Yeah.
I've never seen more Black professionals think about money in the millions. I'm talking about somebody who made a sale of 260 million. And that's like $250 million. And them just having a regular day at work. And I'm thinking, 1 million here is nice.
The commission over there.
17 million in commission, And
just sell one property a day, one property a year.
These are givers. Nobody knows this, but we didn't pay for our hotel stay. Wow. We didn't pay for the Tesla Ubers that we were in. And what I saw is a culture of just being open. Ooh. But when you are open, you're open to receive. And the only reason I want to mention this is that is why I share. I want us to be open. Not necessarily because, there are gatekeepers or we don't want to gatekeep. No. But because there's a world out there that's far bigger than ours. Whether you are in that shack, think about that 3-bedroom house, because it is limitless out there. Just step out of this comfort zone and the circumstance you find yourself in, because where your mind goes, your feet will follow. That's how I'd love to just end this. Like, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
That I thought my big mind is big until I got to elsewhere where I was like, oh, I'm very small-minded in my thinking. You know?
Oh, wow. Being open to giving.
It opens you up to being open to receive.
That is so powerful. And I think it really kind of highlights that, because sometimes when these big milestones happen, and I think for myself as well, it's like you sometimes don't want to share them online because you're just like, there's like you're bragging or you're just like putting stuff out, and you think about it and you're just like, sometimes it's just about being open to share.
Yeah.
And to say, if somebody can do it, so can you.
That's it.
You know, and oh man.
That's it. If I could,
that is so good.
You know, we could hear so many times, oh, it's possible, but it's not possible because we were born with silver spoons. It's possible because we thought about it.
That's true.
Someone said we're living in someone's imagination. When you think about that, you're just like, okay, am I thinking enough? Like, can I create by my thinking? You know, and we are co-creators. I do believe when we lay it before God, God's like, okay, that's your plan. This is mine.
Yes.
Let's see how we can work around this. But He's not put limits in our thinking. Yeah, our circumstances might be limited, our funds may be limited, but not His.
But not the mine. Yeah, sure. I love that. And I think to every entrepreneur that is listening, maybe the key big takeaway from me is like, from this conversation would be, I think, being very much open to money within your transactions. And I think open to give might not always be about money, but just being able to give yourself, your skill, your resources with all your heart and intention as unto the Lord. Because I think that is also part of how we serve our clients.
Absolutely.
You know? We think about them, how we serve our staff members, how we serve even on the online space with creating content. It's a form of serving. And when you are intentional and you're open to share, open to give, things, resources, and blessings flow through you.
Oh, so if I could tell you the number of campaigns I've gotten just from subscribers, meeting the homecoming of Zozibini, the Miss Universe. I couldn't believe it, but the 2 girls who invited me were like, oh yeah, when we were doing the guest list, we were like, oh, this is literally right up y'all's alley, because she mentioned the girl child in Africa. She hopes that her content would educate the girl child in Africa. And it's something I said in a video about something else, and they're like, that's Zozibini's line. I'm like, oh. And that's how I got on the guest list. You know?
Look at that.
Forbes, same. You know, the editor watched my videos and they're like, oh, come and speak at a Forbes event.
How
you don't
powerful.
think about it, but when you do share, and sometimes it's free. Most of the time, your resources are there, not for yourself, but for everyone else. But we withhold them because we're limited in our thinking. Not knowing that we are withholding our own blessings. We are restricting our own blessings. And so many of us think about it only from a monetary form. But in everything.
That's true.
Like, what would it benefit me to say no to sharing a rate card with you? Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing.
That was also a big one during that time. It's like when you would approach other people to assist you with the rate card, and it's like people wouldn't be like, and you would easily be like, oh no, I charged 40K.
Yeah, but why? Why restrict it? You know, because it doesn't take away from your next job. But what it does do, if I do restrict it, it does take away from mine. And I don't realize it. Because the next person you meet might be holding my blessing. And literally just the word from you saying, hey, have you chatted to yours? I think this would be fit for her brand. We open our doors. They say out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So whatever is in here, we are literally creating. By me sharing with you, the next time I go to somebody, I'm like, oh, go to her podcast, or maybe you're looking for a sponsor that aligns, purely because we keep sharing. But the more we withhold, the more we restrict ourselves from receiving.
So true.
But yeah, I could speak the whole day, girl.
Me too. We could have this conversation the whole day, but thank you so much for joining me. This has been absolutely lovely.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah.
I had to dig deep.
Yeah.
17-year-old, yo.
But I'm glad we did. Resonate community, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. So many nuggets were shared here. And I think this is one of those episodes I would actually recommend you to watch again and again and again, because I think we shared quite a number of things that fall into different aspects of our lives, but they eventually come together and they help you build that business. They help you create a pitch. Yours literally shared a client acquisition strategy in the beginning of this podcast. And if you can just sit down and literally write it down, I promise you, you will come up with a strategy that's going to help you create one-page pitches, not 20 pages, okay? Because that is important. But just be able to craft certain things in your business that are going to help you make more money. But with that said, let me know in the comment section if you are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this anywhere. Let us know, what did you learn the most? What was an aha moment for you? And then hopefully we can have yours back, because there's so many conversations we would like to have with her. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys on our next podcast episode. Goodbye.